My name's Don Alcock from the Australian Water Recycling Centre of Excellence. The Centre's mission is to enhance the management and use of recycled water through industry partnerships and build capability with the water recycling sector, with industry in particular, in promoting recycling as a positive economic and environmental and social option. We support over 25 major R&D projects, some of which you're going to be hearing this morning, which are broadly grouped into themes including improved management of aquifer recharge, resource recovery and efficiency, food processing and water for drinking, and validation and testing, and also with data access and management, and today's theme is in the value economics area. The Australian Government has provided $20 million to the Centre over its 6-year life, which is supported by approximately $40 million from our industry partners in cash and in kind. And our 8 founding partners include the University of New South Wales, CSIRO, Veolia Water, GHD, the University of Queensland, Griffith University, SEQ Water, Melbourne Water, as our core 8 funding partners, but we've also got over 80 industry partners in our various projects. So we're also pleased today to be working with the CRC for water sensitive cities, and one of the project presentations will be funded and supported by that project. So this morning you're going to hear about 4 of the projects that can help the way that planners and policymakers and investors can make better water recycle decisions. And all of the projects that you'll hear this morning do have industry partners, which they'll acknowledge during their presentations. And that, of course, is a prerequisite for funding from our centre, and in many ways, I think, from the CRC. So what we want to see today is how the research outcomes from these projects can be used and can have impact beyond their project partners, particularly in the sectors that we're trying to identify, in the utility sector, private enterprise sector, and the government and regulatory sectors. So we'll be spending quite a bit of time after the presentations this afternoon looking at ways that we can explore opportunities to take these projects and the broad theme of improved economic and investment planning decisions into the future. And we'll be asking you, I guess, as individuals and also as representatives of your organisations to explore those opportunities with us. So what we want to really see today happening is how these products and outputs can have resonance with your organisations and with other sectors in Australia. So we want to ask questions today that will focus on, after we have a shared understanding of what they are, where the opportunities might lie. So the outcome of today's forum, which we hope you can work with us to develop, is a shared understanding of the products and tools that have been produced by collaborative research. We will be producing a report of the tools and products and how they can be used, with recommendations for their adoption. And we would like to also explore and develop some recommendations for areas of further work that can help support a national urban water R&D initiative in this economic thematic area, to inform the development of the further work that a national water urban R&D initiative will be taking. And Greg Oliver, who's our acting CEO at the moment with the Centre of Excellence, will be explaining a little bit more about this national initiative. I know some of you here today are quite directly involved with that, but for others, Greg will be explaining a bit more about that initiative and the partnership working group that is progressing a number of other themes, and how we're going to be using this particular thematic area for the future. So What I might do next is hand over to Greg, who's going to be talking a bit more about the centre's projects and a bit more about the National Urban Water R&D Initiative. Greg? Does that come up? If we can get it up on the screen.
Sure, it's coming.
There we go.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Don. I'll just get my notes organised. Well, welcome everyone. Let's just make sure we don't have that. So thanks for actually making the time today to come. I know there's actually a range of people in the room from state and federal government, from private sector utilities. There's still a couple of name tags outside, so we are expecting a few more. I think Don's going to, or Lucia is going to ask us to introduce ourselves later on, but just like to, before we do that, actually acknowledge two of our board here today, Tim Bucleddon and Nick Apostolides. If you can just put up your hands. We actually have apologies from our board chair and also our research advisory group chair, but we do have two. Well, we will have two. We've got one at the minute. One of our research advisory group, Ivan Passat, who's down the back, and we have another one coming soon, and we have a former member in Alan Gregory. So Alan was, of course, chair of the project advisory group that actually oversaw the work of our two projects. I'm also really pleased, as Don said, that today we're working with the CRC for water sensitive cities, and we're really pleased to have them come today and talk to their project work, which is really akin to ours, and we hope that we can really build on that with them. I guess the question is, why does a Centre of Excellence in Water Recycling deal with this topic? And when I talk to people about our work, they mostly think we're into pipes and pumps and membranes and all sorts of things. And yes, we are involved in doing a lot of work and funding a lot of work in that. But with the enormous growth in water recycling during the drought, with the enormous uptake, with the in some ways the policy approaches to actually prefer that to other forms and sources, it's now becoming quite apparent that there needs to be a rationalisation of whether this is the best fit, whether it is the best source for end use. So these 2 or 3 or 4 projects today give us a real insight about how to think about recycling in all its forms and all its breadth. So I want to take you on a bit of a journey and do this as quickly as I can. Don's actually covered a little bit about who we are and what we do. I'd like to introduce some 3 key drivers for what we are doing now and planning to do next, and how we want to work will be the 3rd thing. So I'll go back. Don's talked about our mission. I won't actually dwell on that. We were conceived in 2007. We were launched in 2010. We are halfway through our program. We've got, as Don said, over 25 projects with a total investment of cash in kind of approximately 50 mil, and 20 of that is cash from the Commonwealth. As Don said, we've got a range of industry partners, and today we've got some of those today in the room. We are international. We do have projects and project teams and partners around the world, and we are working to how we can actually increase that and boost the inputs both ways. In 2010, there was 4 research themes were actually were conceived. There was a national engagement program around those, and from that there was a strategic research plan, which is actually on our website, which then informs and helps to fund and inform the way that we fund our projects. And since then, we've had 5 open rounds, calls for projects. So the 3 projects today, at least from the centre, came about through these open round calls. These were the four original themes, and as you can see, the third of those themes today is the one that we are going to focus on, and it's only a small part of that broader theme. What the centre then did is translate those 4 themes into what we call our research goals. And I won't talk a lot about these today because it just helps you understand the way that we framed our program. We have a large number of projects in Goal 1, which is where 2 of these 3 projects today sit. We've got a very large project becoming a program around validation. We've got a very large project around augmenting the drinking water and the sort of the public engagement around that, and a lot around knowledge adoption and transfer. So we've got 4 very clear research goals. We work with our project leaders extremely closely, and as I said, there's over 25 of those. We have a strong emphasis on adoption, and we'll hear more about that during the day. I'm not going to go through all of the projects, but we have just to give you a flavour, we have a fairly large program in resource efficiency and recovery, and there's a lot of very interesting work coming through from that. The projects today more sit in this sort of space, where you'll hear today and see examples of cases that we are then able to learn and draw from. The validation program in Goal 2 draws upon and builds on the work of the national guidelines and talks to how there can be a more efficient approach to validation. We've got support for that indicatively from these groups, and it seems to be a program of work that we really are going to advance a lot in the next 18 months in terms of having a more considered national approach. Our Goal 3 program, as I said, is about engaging, having tools and working up tools that we can engage, that can be used, for example, by utilities wanting to and seeking to engage with customers around either IPR or DPR. I'll skip through. Our Goal 4, and this is a fairly large program for us, is about how we are going about knowledge adoption and capacity building at the national scale. We're working with others, including some of you here today in the room, around data, national urban water data, and also knowledge portals. So we've got some fairly good work going there. We've also got a project with CSIRO and our DCEL centre cousins in Perth around being able to map climate resilient water sources. The more interesting part today, that's a little bit of background, but in terms of the tone of today's workshop and the tone of the Where To Next, as Don Don's talked about, is what actually drives the ongoing work program in this space. And there are three things. It used to be once upon a time drought, and we're not actually in drought, at least in the East Coast, and at least in the major towns and cities. But there is a real drive now for innovation. There's a really strong drive still around cost efficiency, and this is a major incentive and a major need in each of our states and utilities. And the third one is, I guess, livable cities and integrated systems. So having a quick look at each of these, and the way that we actually approach these three key themes. The first one, innovation for us, and is really core to our work and our projects. We spend a long time working with our project teams around adoption plans and pathways. We are working very hard, and Don's role is to really get involved in that space. It's not just about taking things to market, it's about policies and regulatory approaches, and about trying to, in some cases, build a consistent approach. We, as much as we can, we are very engaged. Our project teams engage within users. We're working with AWA in terms of a pre-Oz Water 2014 forum around trying to bridge this gap and stronger links between industries and researchers. I noticed a really interesting article in the AFR last Friday, and the quotes on the right-hand side are actually from this article, where we have our federal minister now talking about a failing in terms of a lack of collaborative work, and that it is really, there's a strong need now to link in much stronger terms science and industry. So the concept of now innovation pathways and much stronger linkage between research and adoption and productivity is certainly now a very strong theme for us. Which brings me to driver two. Each of you who works in utilities or with and for them knows that this is a major theme. That it's all about now trying to drive costs down and productivity up. Most of our projects, if not actually all of them, aim to work in that sort of space. And the two or three projects today are very much about how that can actually become a much more efficient way of doing things. The third is speaks to the fact that recycling now is not just a preferred option during drought, but it's part of the integrated urban water cycle. It's not just a standalone thing anymore. We're very much aware of that, even though that's part of our name and our core work. We very much recognise that across scales and across end users, it is as part of these solutions. So very briefly, before I finish, looking ahead in that sort of context of those three drivers, how do we work? And I guess there's three things I'll talk about, and Don's actually touched on some of these. We certainly are engaging around our projects and programs. We are doing work on the national scale, and we are doing work internationally. As I've said, we have a very strong emphasis on adoption plans and knowledge transfer from all of our projects, and we spend a fair bit of time on that. We are very engaged with peak groups in each of the states and private sector. We do a lot of work with different governments, and we're very involved with the private sector. We helped give birth to what's now called a water business network group, which now sits as part of AWA, and these are some of the groups as part of that. The private sector in this space hasn't had a voice in the past coming to the R&D table, and we've very much helped to spawn this, and we're very pleased now that AWA is now actually picking up this and running hard. A couple of weeks ago, we launched one of our first projects to finish, which was the work that ATSI did for us on direct potable reuse. That's a piece of work that's now getting international acclaim, and we want to do more with this. On the national front, we are part of what's called a Urban Water Forum, R&D forum, and we're part of, and what actually drives that is a thing called the Partnership Working Group. And there are 4 key pillars or sectors that form that, and those are the 4 there. And some of the folk today in this room are part of that. And this group meets every quarter. And what's coming from that, and has actually run a national urban water R&D forum in 2012 and 2013, and one's being planned for 2014. And of that, there are 6 key initiatives now that have actually arisen through that, in terms of R&D initiatives, and these are the 6, and you can see that the first one there, as Don has in fact alluded to, is really the theme today that we're here to really engage with and talk about. So we have a joint lead role with the ERC, and you can see the other leads there. And they're not the only groups involved, but they are the groups who put up their hand to help lead this. Internationally, we have just signed an MOU with our sister group in the States, the Water Reuse Research Foundation. Our CEO and chair of our research advisory group were there a couple of weeks ago. We've got much stronger links now with IWA, and we're beginning to have one-on-one links with the groups in the UK and so forth. So our international work has in the past been individually project-based. We're now beginning to ramp that up. So thanks today for making the time to come. We've got a very wide group here today in terms of where you're from and the sort of skills and interests that you have. It's important that we today hear what you think about this work. We're keen to use this work to actually unlock and help to unlock what can be done next. And we're keen today to hear whether you think that there is a program of work that needs to actually grow out of this. So again, thanks for your time, and for those of you who I don't know, I look forward today to having a chat.